Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and today I am joined by Scotty Alcroft, all the way from Spain. Scotty, welcome again to A Celtic State of Mind.
Thanks very much, Paul. I'm delighted to be here, mate. Delighted for you to ask me. And let's go for it, my man.
As I said at the top of the show, you're in Spain at the moment, Scott. You're over there working and residing. You've been there for a few years. Talk to us about your move over to Spain and where you are at the moment with regards to this pandemic.
Well, basically, I moved over here. This is my second time living here. I lived in Gibraltar between 2007 to 2010 for 3 years. And I missed it greatly, you know. And a couple of years ago, unfortunately, my marriage broke down. So I just sort of said to myself, you know, what am I going to do with myself now? So I decided to move back here and give it a go. And I absolutely, you know, wild horses couldn't drive me back to Scotland now. I absolutely love the place. I live just outside Gibraltar, right in the southern tip of Spain. I'm about 8 miles away from the northern tip of Africa, so very, very close to there. You know, we're in the middle of a lockdown at the minute, as everybody knows. And yeah, it's testing times for everybody at the minute, but it's an international, national crisis here even, and the police are everywhere, and yeah, scary times, mate, scary times.
And you obviously are a wee bit further ahead of the curve, to use that term, in relation to the development of this virus, Scotty. So you're probably in a situation where we might be in, let's say, 2-3 weeks' time. You know, just how grim is it over there? It's a complete lockdown, you know, the police patrolling the streets, that kind of thing, yeah?
Yeah, like I said, my man, it's really, really bad. We're getting 700 to 800 deaths a day here. And I've been trying to get my point across on Twitter and Facebook and stuff to people that, you know, this isn't a laughing matter, it's not a joke. It's not a bank holiday experience for people over in the UK to get together with your pals and congregate in parks and things like that. Over here, you know, if you're out in the streets here, the police will grab you. And if you haven't got a viable reason why you're out in the streets, then, you know, they're going to hammer you for it. You can only go to the supermarkets for emergency supplies or go to the bank if you need money. You know, it's really, really strict over here, and there's massive fines for people. And I think that's going to happen in the UK eventually, because what I'm seeing is mindless idiots, really, that are putting everybody else at risk. And my advice to everybody would just be, if you can, just stay indoors. You know, people should just take this very, very seriously and just keep away from people. Don't let people into your house. I understand that key workers have to work and stuff. But the nonsense I'm seeing, like in London, for example, people cramming into tubes and things like that, it's crazy. Find other means to get to work if you can. Like over in Spain at the minute, they're just doing single occupancy in the cars. So you're only allowed one person in cars over here and on scooters and stuff. And, you know, I think that's going to be the way ahead for the UK with the way it's going. I've
been in complete lockdown for 3 weeks, me and the wee boy. My missus works for the NHS, so I'm getting the horror stories on a nightly basis, really, Scotty, and I've got to echo what you're saying there. You know, it's one of these things that's a short-term thing if everybody sticks to the rules. And I know a lot of people don't like sticking to the rules, but this is as serious as it can get. And on a less serious note, in relation to your move to Spain, you say that wild horses when they bring you back to Scotland. There's a certain places where you just have an affinity with a place, an island, a holiday resort. Have you just clicked with that area, Scott? Is that something that's always been in your mind, that you knew that you and where you live in Spain were perfectly matched?
Well, 100%. I think since the age of 21, I'm 42 now, since the age of 21, I've lived abroad, Paul, as you know, and I've been everywhere around the world, really. It's just this one place that just I had this affinity with, you know. The whole 3 years I was here, I loved it, and the day I left, you know, it's the one place I always thought about every single day. And when I came back, you've just got a feeling for places, you know, and I just love it. I love the lifestyle. I'm a very, very relaxed person. I love the lifestyle. I love the weather. I just love everything about it. And for me, this is definitely where I'd call home now, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, your feet are the most photographed set of feet on the internet. Is there any truth in the rumour that the film The Business was actually based on your life story?
Oh, I'd love to say it was, Paul, to be honest. I absolutely love the film, as everybody knows as well. I probably watch it once a month, but I think I'm probably the Scottish version of that, as everybody can see on the internet, yeah.
Listen, Scotty, when I first met you way back in the 80s, we both had a shared interest in one thing in particular, and that was Celtic Football Club. Let's talk about your introduction to Celtic. Talk to me about getting into Celtic and starting to go to the games.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Saltcoats in Ayrshire on the west coast of Scotland. You had two choices there, really. It was either Celtic or it was either Rangers. And my dad's side of the family from Ardrossan, they were all sort of Rangers fans. And my mum was born in Ireland, and all her sort of brothers and sisters and stuff were all Celtic fans. And to be honest with you, it wasn't really any of them that really got me into football. My dad wasn't really into football much back then, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It was one of my neighbours, a man called Billy Cooper. He used to go to all the Celtic games, and it was him that sort of got me into it. I used to see him going to the games every Saturday, and I'd say to my mum and dad, where's Billy going? Where's Billy going? And he was always going to the Celtic games, and I think it's just one of them. I think if somebody took me to a Rangers game, I would have been a Rangers fan. But the first game I went to, was a Celtic game. Billy took me to the Celtic games. It was back in the days when you would get lifted over the turnstiles, so you didn't pay to get in. I'd go up in the Garryowen bus from Ardrossan with Billy, and it's just one of them really. It was just sort of got into supporting Celtic by accident, I would say. But obviously I'm glad I did, and through the horrible times in the 90s up to the present day where it's fantastic. But we've been through all the trials and tribulations, and I'm sort of glad that Billy took me to my first Celtic game. Oh,
absolutely. I remember back in 1990, Scotty, you went with a mutual friend, Ryan Jackson, who I've not seen for many, many years. You went to Italia 90, so you were all obviously well versed in going to the games. Who would be your early Celtic heroes? What was the team that you remember?
The team that I remember probably would be the Centenary side. I would have been 10 years old then. So previous to that would have been like Danny McGrain coming to the tail end of his career, Paul McStay and Roy Aitken sort of starting out. But the Centenary team for me would probably be the first team that I can really, really remember getting excited about. Big Roy was sort of a family friend back then. His mum and dad lived 2 doors up from my granny and my papa. So I used to see Roy every Sunday. So for him to be the talisman of that side, being a local hero and stuff like that, obviously you had the likes of Frank McAvenny, an amazing character, guys like that. I would have to say the Centenary side was the first team that really got me excited about Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, McAvenny was a hero. He was a hero to all of us at that age, I think, Scotty. I always think of Celtic having this affinity with a guy with a personality, someone who we can relate to, and McAvenny was that type of striker. We'd had it before with Charlie Nicholas. I think if you go further back, even with Jinky, the fans loved him as a person as well as a player. Charlie Tully in the 1950s, sometimes the cheekier types of players who like to laugh and a joke, maybe off the park as well. And but McAvenny was a real favourite back then. And what I would say about Frank is I have met him quite a few times doing the podcast and the Nearly Mocking film and live events, and I get on really well with him. I really, really like Frank McAvenny. I think he was a superb player for Celtic, and he's always helped me out on a personal level. Whenever I've asked for his assistance, for example, coming through to Stirling to get a podcast on a Saturday afternoon with his good lady, taking time out to do that, coming up to Hampden to get interviewed for the Nearly Mocking documentary. There's a lot of things these players do. They don't get the recognition for it, Scott. Frank always helps. He always helps out if a Celtic fan asks him. Part of his lifestyle will be that he does live events. That's brilliant. He's very, very good at it, one of the best. But if he can help you, he will. I've got a huge amount of time for Frank McAvenny.
I've got a wee story about Frank, actually, that your listeners might like. I'm the same. I've met him a couple of times at NHS. I used to work for the NHS, and we used to do a charity football tournament once a year 6-a-side tournament up at Tory Glen, and Frank would do the sort of after show party sort of thing, and he'd be one of the guests at that, and him and Lisa Haig and people like Grado and people like that would turn up. But Frank McAvenny was there. We were playing the tournament through the day, and he came up to me and he says, "Scotty, I've got a wee surprise for you." And I says, "Oh, what's the surprise?" He says, "Don't tell MD, but Billy McNeil's coming in the night." And this was probably around about the start of the time when Billy was starting to get a little bit ill. And I couldn't believe it. I'd never met Billy McNeil before in my life, and I couldn't believe that he was coming to this sort of after show party. So the football tournament finished, and we went back to the hotel, and we turned up at Hampden. It was the night do. And Frank was there, and like I said, I met him the year before at the event, so he sort of knew me by face, and we had a quick chat and stuff. And Billy McNeil was at the top table, so he was quite a bit away from us. And I said to Frank, I says, "Oh, I'd really love to meet Billy McNeil, I've never met him." And he says, "All right." He said, "Well, come with me then." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Come on, I'll introduce you to the gaffer." And I was like, "No bloody way, man." So he walked me right through everything, and he took me right up to the top table. And like I said, Billy was sort of into his illness by then, and he just walked up to me and said, "Gaffer, this is Scotty Alcroft. He's from Saltcoats. He's dying to meet you." And he stood up, but when Billy stood up, I was sort of holding his hand because he couldn't really stand up properly, unaided sort of thing. And straight away he says, "Oh, you from Saltcoats, son?" I said, "Aye." And he says, "Oh, Bobby Lennox were there," and we had a chat about Bobby Lennox and stuff, and I explained to Mr. McNeil that I knew him and stuff, and I was just completely dumbstruck. And then me and Frank went back, once we'd finished chatting to him and stuff, we went back to the bar, and I just couldn't believe that he went out his way to do that for me when he didn't have to. And it's like you said, it's just little things that people do that make them the man they are,
Oh, without a doubt, Scotty. Great tale about the late, great Billy McNeil as well. In that side, you've mentioned Bobby Lennox. We also had the one and only Jimmy Johnson, wee Jinky. And as you'll know, the Jimmy Johnson Academy and Charitable Trust are close to our hearts as well at Celtic State of Mind. We do work hand in hand to raise awareness and raise funds for the Academy and charity in Jimmy's name. And we've started doing something actually on Twitter, Scotty, where we're trying to pass the ball all over the world, right? So we made a wee video getting the ball, turning around, passing it to the next player. And we've started getting the videos coming through which look fantastic. And I'm going to ask you on here, you're going to have to get your hands on a ball. You got a ball yet?
I haven't got one here, mate, no. And all the local sports shops are shut at the minute, but I will try my best to get one, pal.
Listen, get somebody at your next pool party, right? Because I think it's just you and a couple of others at the moment to throw something at you. You're going to have to whale it out the park and send us a video, mate. I will do, mate. I'm sure we can arrange that. I've got my good friend Old Alan here, and I've got young Jade as well. I will get one of them to. You're making these people famous, Scott. Everybody knows who Old Alan is. It's quite incredible. He's a bit of a legend, mate. Jimmy Johnson, how astonishing is it? You're the same age as me. In fact, you're a wee bit older. I need to get that dig in. You're a wee bit older than me, Scotty. But if somebody says to you, "Oh, who's the greatest ever Celt?" People of our era say Jimmy Johnson. We never saw Jimmy Johnson play, and it just shows you the impact of the great man. I mean, growing up, Jimmy Johnson was that Celtic icon, even for guys like you and me, wasn't he? Oh, for sure. I remember back in the days of the VHS video player, I used to have the Jinky Story on video, and I would watch it. I'd watch his videos, and I'd watch George Best's videos, and people like that. People that, like you said, would never seen play, but just unbelievable. The story of Di Stefano's testimonial where he took on the whole Real Madrid side and then dribbled the ball back to the halfway line and stood on the ball, and there was a gap of about 40 to 50 metres in front of him. Nobody wanted to get near this guy. The guy was just incredible. And if you think about the pitches that he played in those days as well, imagine he played in the bowling greens that we play in now. You couldn't even put a price on this guy's head. He was unbelievable, absolutely phenomenal, and up there with the George Best of the world. Yeah, it's probably one of my regrets. I never actually got to meet Jinky as well in my life, believe it or not, considering he was Bobby Lennox's best pal, and I know Bobby quite well. So yeah, it's one of my regrets in life not meeting Jinky, but phenomenal player. And the way you can judge him is the way other greats speak about him. You've got guys like Eusebio and the list goes on. Pele, and everybody talks about this guy. The guy was just definitely Celtic's greatest ever. Oh, different class, and it's true what you say there. A massive regret for me, the two players I would have loved to have met and spoken to and shoot their hand. One of them was Jimmy Johnson, another one was Tommy Burns. Tommy Burns, who, it was his testimonial, was my first game, 1987 against Liverpool. You know, when I got my first season ticket, Tommy was in charge. The first trophy I seen us lifting, Tommy was the gaffer. And it's just a shame I never ever got to see him and the great Jimmy Johnson. Now, I know for a fact you used to play, because I played in the same school team as you for Sacred Heart way back in the 1980s, Scotty. Who was the best player you ever shared the football pitch with? And did any of your peers, any of your contemporaries make the grade?
That's a very, very easy one for me. And he'll send shudders down the spines of Celtic fans forever, I think, as well. There's a guy out here called Lee Cassiaro. He played for Lincoln Red Imps out in Gibraltar. And if you can remember, well, everybody will remember that goal that he scored, Brendan Rodgers' first competitive game out here in Gibraltar when Lincoln Red Imps beat Celtic in that infamous game, 1-0. Lee Cassiaro, he scored against Scotland as well at Hampden. Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, the best player I've ever played with. I played with him for 3 years out here when I was here, 2007 to 2010, and he must have been in his mid to early 20s then. And you know, he could have played for any side in Scotland for sure, and probably half the Premiership sides in England back then. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The best finisher I've ever played with. I played centre midfield then, and I just used to look for his runs and just play him in, because I knew every time he got the ball he was just going to find the onion bag. And he's seen it with not so much his finish against Celtic in the first game, but certainly his finish against Scotland at Hampden. The way he just cuts across the ball and just rifles it past, I think it was Craig Gordon. The guy was just unbelievable, and he's still playing to this day. I think he's about possibly 37, 38 now, and he's still playing for Gibraltar and Lincoln Red Imps, and definitely the best player I've played football with. Contemporaries, other players that I've played with, I can't really think of anybody, mate, to be honest with you, that I sort of played with, which is surprising, that I played with at school or after school that went on to make it. I think there was one guy from Saltcoats called Paul Walker. I think he played for Partick Thistle. He was around about the same age as me. He played for Partick Thistle and a few other sides, possibly Dundee United as well. But apart from that, mate, there wasn't really. I think we were too involved in the rave scene in the 90s to get involved in football.
I've got a great picture, actually, a great team group. It's from 1990-91 school football team. You're in it, I'm in it, and Alex Finlayson's in it. He signed with Swindon Town. He went down to Swindon. That's right. I forgot about Alex. He was a cracking player as well in the school team. He went to Swindon. That's right. He was very, very good. I think the last time I seen him, he was playing for Haddington junior team up at Steel End. Oh, right, okay. Aye. Oh, he was still an excellent player. Obviously, as soon as he came off the park, he was having a wee fag and a pint and that. But I mean, that's just the Scottish football tale of woe. Let's have a wee look, Scotty, at the Celtic side from your era, from players that you've actually seen. The greatest Celtic 11, 1 to 11. Who would that be? Right, mate. I went for a 4-4-1-1 formation here. I think everybody will know who my striker is going to be, but I had to. The midfield for me was the hardest part. So I'll start from the beginning. In my time, my greatest Celtic 11 is definitely this one. So in goals, I went for Arthur Boric. I think in my time at Celtic, he's definitely been the best goalkeeper. To keep David Marshall at the side, for example, who's went on to have a fantastic career. I think Fraser Foster is a phenomenal goalkeeper, but I think what lets him down is when the ball's at his feet. You know, he's a little bit slow, but I think Arthur was very, very both-footed. He was just a phenomenal shot stopper, crazy, absolutely batshit crazy as well, which I think you need to. Didn't he mention bats, Scott? Didn't he mention bats at this time, mate? No, sorry. But definitely Arthur's the best goalkeeper in my time that I've seen at Celtic. My right back, it was a choice of two, but luckily I got to see this guy at the tail end of his career, and that's obviously the greatest fullback we've ever had at the club, I would say, and Danny McGrain. Jackie Mack gets a nod, is definitely in there at number 2. And I'd just like to wish Jackie all the best with his recent health scare, and I hope he comes through that. Absolutely. But it's got to be Danny McGrain for me at right back. My left back, again, I might get vilified for this one because he's sort of left under a little bit of a shadow, but definitely for me it's going to be Kieran Tierney. I wish he'd sort of stayed around for a few years more, and maybe we'll see him back one day, but in my time, we've had like Anton Rogan, Darius Dovcek, guys like that.
But for me, it's definitely KT. I think if he didn't get the ball off you the first time, he would get back up off his arse and then chase you and certainly get it off you the second time. And going forward, I thought he was a brilliant left back for us.
Yeah.
My two centre halves. The first one I think is very obvious. I think in my time, for sure, definitely the best centre half I've ever had at Celtic, and he's went on to prove that since he's left, and that's big Virgil van Dijk. I've never seen a centre half like this guy in my life. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Billy McNeil play, but from all the stories I've heard and all the footage, then definitely he's obviously the main man. But Virgil van Dijk for me is the best centre half I've ever seen at Celtic, without a shadow of a doubt. This was the toughest part for me, was picking a partner for him in there. I've seen the likes of Bobo Balde, Mialde, Valharan, the list goes on and on and on with centre halves, but the one that sticks out for me that I'd love to have seen in there with Virgil is big Paul Elliott.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree.
I absolutely love Paul Elliott. I think him and Virgil, would have been completely unstoppable at the back. What a header of the ball. He could play a bit, he could pass. Yeah, he had everything. He had pace, power, definitely everything that you need. Especially, I think, in the modern day, Paul Elliott would have been unbelievable in any era, really. But for me, the partner in there for Big Virgil has got to be Paul Elliott.
That would be scary for any forward to come up against that pair.
Oh, can you imagine? They'd have them in their pocket all day long, the both of them. My midfield mate on the left, the best left midfielder I've seen in my time at Celtic, without a doubt, is Alan Thompson. I think that Martin O'Neill era side was just phenomenal in every single position, but I haven't seen MD on the left-hand side better than Tomo. There's other players that have played there that maybe come into my side later on, but for me, how he never got more England caps than what he did, so on and so forth, I think this, the English looking down their noses at the Scottish game, stopped him and Sutton getting more caps. But Thompson, when England were screaming out for a left midfielder, he was doing it week in, week out at Scotland, and then in the Champions League, UEFA Cup, so on and so forth. He could have solved all of England's problems if they'd just picked them, but probably their arrogance stopped them from doing that. Mm-hmm. But Alan Thompson makes it into my left midfield position. On the right hand side, I'm going to go for Gordon Strachan's tactics, and I'm going to put Nakamura on the right hand side. He's also in there for his dead ball abilities as well, but I just think Nakamura was a complete one-off, and again I don't think we'll see the likes of him again at Celtic, especially for his free kick abilities. He was a bit lightweight on the ball at times and sort of get bullied, but I've never seen anybody put a ball in the box like Nakamura, so for me he gets the right midfield berth. And the two guys in the centre of the park for me, I touched on one earlier, an absolute hero of mine, would be Paul McStay, without a shadow of a doubt. Paul McStay is the best centre midfielder I've seen in my time at Celtic, and he definitely gets the first choice as my centre midfielder. Again, the other guy, this was a real struggle for me, picking his partner in the middle of the park with him. We've had Lennon, we've had Petrov, we've had John Collins, we've had fantastic central midfielders, but the one for me that sticks out is the Champions League winner, Paul Lambert. I just thought the guy was complete class personified in the middle of the park, and I think him and McStay in there would have been absolutely phenomenal as a midfield two in the middle there. Great balance
to your central midfield area, without a doubt.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think Lambert would do a wee bit of sitting, and McStay could drive on and pick those passes out, and phenomenal central midfielders. The man that I'm going to put just in front of them, without a shadow of a doubt, is the wizard himself, Lubo Moravcik. I think Lubo behind this main striker that I'm going to mention in a minute. I've just ran out of stuff to say about Lubo Moravcik. The guy was just a gift from the gods, as has been said a million times. The guy was phenomenal. Left foot, right foot. I was at a football function with Simon Donnelly and Jackie McNamara. It was actually Lubo's night in Glasgow. I think it was last year sometime. I'll just tell your listeners a bit of a wee story here that they maybe not know about. His first day at Celtic, Lubo Moravcik, Jackie McNamara and Henrik Larsson were practising free kicks, and they didn't really know anything about this guy, obviously, and he came across and he said to the two of them, he says, you mind if I hit a couple of free kicks? And they were like, aye mate, crack on. They sat the board in for him, hit one with his right foot in the top corner, one with his left foot in the top corner, and just walked away to the two of them. The guy was an absolute genius.
Oh, he was.
Nobody ever knows what foot was his strongest. The guy was unbelievable. And obviously my striker up top is the King of Kings. Again, never seen a striker like this guy in my time at Celtic, and we probably never will. World class, and for what he done after he left Celtic speaks for itself. The guy was phenomenal, and I'm not going to mix my words here, but I did shed a tear the day that he left Celtic. The guy was just absolutely unbelievable, and that's my greatest love of him.
That's a cracking team, Scott. I think quite a few of us shed a tear or two when he left the club, unfortunately. I think when you look at a player like Larsson and he's leaving, it almost feels like the end of an era, because you think to yourself, when are we ever going to have someone of that quality, that class again? It's almost a one-in-a-generation player. Nowadays, I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, Celtic did have world-class players. And I think you mentioned McStay there. McStay at one point, before Celtic went into the kind of dark period of the early 90s, he was being classed as a world-class player. He was playing on the top level for Scotland in 1986 at the World Cup, But then when Larsson comes along, and in that era, you kind of think to yourself, we're not going to see many players like that playing for Celtic again. So there you go. Great side. Who would be your manager?
I had to think about this one. See, to be honest with you, again, if he hadn't left under a cloud, I think it would have only been one choice for me. But because of the way he left Celtic, I'm definitely not going to pick him. It's got to be Martin O'Neill. Mm-hmm. Martin O'Neill, for me, his side, I touched on it earlier, the balance of that side was phenomenal. And I just think what he done at Celtic, took us to that UEFA Cup final, and just how he galvanised that side at all times, it's got to be Martin O'Neill for me.
I think he broke that monopoly, Scott. Rangers, up until 1986, domestically, in terms of league titles, had not won a great amount. They had a wee purple patch where they won 2 trebles in 3 years, in between Celtic's double win in 1977. But after 86, when Souness comes in, they're winning regularly. Celtic breaking up that trend now and again, but not regularly enough. And it was only when O'Neill came in, wasn't it, that we were able to actually break that domination, and that had spanned back to 1986.
Aye, I mean, if you look at the players that he managed to bring to Celtic and attract to Celtic, we spoke about it earlier. How are Celtic going to bring these world-class players back to Celtic? That's when we could compete with the English Premiership sides. We're lucky if we can compete financially with probably League One sides in England now, possibly Championship sides with the money structure. But the players they brought in, and the players on that side, to sign guys like Alan Thompson and Didi Regat for 50 grand. How can you get a player like Didi Regat for 50 grand?
I know.
Unbelievable. Big Sutton as well. I think Big Sutton and Larsson, that combination was unbelievable. And like you said, I just think his man management skills were second to none. The way he handled Stan Petrov. He came to Celtic and he didn't know a lot of English, and how he dealt with these players and these characters and world class players he had at Celtic then, and it was just water off a duck's back to him. I think his backroom staff was excellent as well, and for me, he was a proper Celtic man. Probably not the kid-on version that came for the North Island later on, who pretended he was Mr. Celtic, but Martin O'Neill was a proper Celtic man, and it shone through on the touchline.
I think the one thing that speaks volumes is I was talking to Chris Sutton and John Hartson about an evening with Martin O'Neill that actually would have been this week, I think. It would have been this weekend, Scotty, if the pandemic hadn't hit us. And I says to them, guys, I'm a wee bit nervous about this one because it's Martin O'Neill. And he said, so are we, because he's still the gaffer. That was their attitude towards Martin O'Neill, and this is how highly they regarded the man. Because we are looking at kind of fantasy teams here, you're going to have 2 subs. The first one's going to be a cult hero. The second one is someone who you would have loved to have seen playing for Celtic, be that someone we could have signed, someone that you think played in the greatest Celtic traditions, or somebody who was Celtic-minded that you would have loved to have seen in the hoop. So we're looking for a cult player and someone that never played for Celtic for the bench.
Right. My cult player, again, I'm probably a wee bit of a controversial one here, but people think of guys like Paddy McCourt and guys like that. But for me, the one guy, cult player, that's going to be my bench is Paolo Di Canio. Celtic are all about flair and a bit all-out attack, so the 2 players I've picked have definitely got that in abundance. But for me, Di Canio, I thought the guy was phenomenal. That goal that he scored against Aberdeen, I think it was, and Stubbs done the 70-80 yard pass, and he brought it down with the goal boots on, flicked it over the goalkeeper and put it in the back of the onion bag. I just think I wish he'd stayed at Celtic for longer. Obviously, he had these issues, his aggression issues, and the guy was just, again, sorry to mention it, but batshit crazy. The guy was mental. But as a football player, the guy was phenomenal, and we've seen that when he went down to England. He became a cult hero down there as well. So for me, Di Canio is the man I'm going to have on the bench.
I remember reading, I think it might have been one of Fergie's books, and he spoke about almost signing Di Canio. He was talking about the players he almost signed. One of the obvious ones was Gascoigne. Scotty almost got Gascoigne when he went to Spurs, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he mentioned a bid that he made for Di Canio when Di Canio was at Sheffield Wednesday, and it would have been it would have been a Cantona-esque signing, getting him at a snip because the club wanted to offload him, kind of thing. And he regretted that. Obviously, Di Canio and his stock amongst many, many Celtic fans went through the floor after his political antics, if you like, and his mindset.
Yeah.
His state of mind certainly is not that of a Celtic supporter, a typical Celtic supporter. And so, you said controversial, probably controversial, but if you put the politics to one side and look at him as a player, he was a huge, huge talent at that time in what must have been one of the best Celtic teams I ever watched, even though they didn't win anything. That side under Tommy Burns that season was it really just a joy to watch, wasn't it?
He was absolutely phenomenal. Like you said, put everything else aside and just look at the football player there. The guy was top class.
Now, he didn't play for Manchester United as much as Fergie wanted him to, but what player would you have sitting next to him on the bench that you always fancied for Celtic?
Right, I've done a list of quite a few players here, but I'm going to pick one that nearly signed for. In fact, I think it was basically a done deal, but we never quite got it over the finishing line. But there's players like James McFadden, Snodgrass, Shea Given. I know he was at Celtic, but I'd like to have seen him back. Big Celtic fan. Damien Duff, Robertson at Liverpool. Hopefully, maybe one day we can get him back. Rio Ferdinand was another one as well. I'd like to maybe. I know we probably couldn't afford them, but his if you ask him his hero, it's Paul McStay, and he talks about Celtic very fondly. Paul McGrath as well. He's another one.
Yeah.
I think that was just a bit of a done deal as well, and it would have been nice to have got him. John Terry, another one that classes himself as a Celtic fan. Maybe towards the end of his career there, we possibly could have got him before he went to Aston Villa. Guys like that, but the one guy that I wish we could have signed, and I believe it was literally a done deal, as I said, was David Ginola.
Oh yeah, yeah.
David Ginola, I think at Celtic would have been unbelievable, and I believe his first game actually was against us in a pre-season friendly for Newcastle.
It was.
I think it was when Billy Connolly and Rod Stewart opened one of the stands up, and his first game was against us, but the stories I've heard since was that it was virtually a done deal, and Newcastle come in at the last second and sort of stole him off us. So my other sub would have been David Ginola. David
Ginola, great choice. You're absolutely right. He did play in that game. It was sold on a VHS. John Hughes had signed for Celtic. He didn't play that day, but Tommy Burns got him to go to the airport to pick up Rod Stewart. Another guy whose politics obviously has made him fall on the wrong side of many, many Celtic fans. But I remember the game well, I remember the time well, and I read a story actually in a book by Richard Purden. Richard Purden's a guy from Edinburgh who's written a couple of Celtic books, 3 Celtic books in fact, and in one of them he is interviewing Willie Hawkey, Lord William Hawkey, who was at the discussion with David Ginola. And Fergus McCann was there obviously, and it's going really, really well. And McCann said in his accent, which I won't try and replicate, Scotty, could you play on a cold Tuesday night at Brockville? Talk about trying to talk somebody out to coming to Celtic, And Fergus McCann actually asked him that question. And
that would have been good for his hair, Paul. That would have been good for his hair.
But you're right. He was one of the players that I remember myself being quite angry at him for no signing, because it felt as though it was going to happen. And
it was a match made in heaven, Paul. If we'd got David Ginola, he was perfect for Celtic. Mm-hmm. The flair player, the attacking player, and he would have been a god up here.
What a side, what a brilliant team. Now, I'm a big fan of Celtic jerseys, as many people know, because my long-awaited Celtic jersey book has been in the works for 5 years. And as of next week, we will have a weekly podcast with a Celtic match-worn jersey collector talking through the great Celtic jerseys of the past, Scotty. Now, this is your team. You do the choosing. You choose the manager, the subs. You also choose the jerseys. Could you tell us your favourite home kit and away kit?
Right, well, I'd like to just get this one in here because it's definitely not my favourite home kit, and that would be the 91-92 one with the People's badge on it, the Ford People's badge.
Aye.
I think it's the only time that I've had blue on a Celtic home kit, so for me that's definitely the worst one I've ever had. But my favourite home one, for me, 100% would have to be the centenary top, the home top, 1988 season.
Loved it.
I just loved the way the club done the badge, and it's just for me it's an iconic top that we had in our history, and it's up there with the 125 years top as well. But 100% my team would be wearing the centenary top, Paul.
Good shout. Brilliant. Love the collar as well, Scotty.
Yeah, the collar, phenomenal.
Aye, and I remember getting that strip. It was just stunning. But that template, as they call it, was obviously used for the other team playing out of Ibrox, and Aberdeen had that as well, and various other teams had it down south. It was a beautiful kit, other than the blue version. It was a beautiful jersey, so I've absolutely no complaints about that. What about an away kit?
The away one I went for, mate, is the black one of the 2012-13 season that Hooper and Wanyama and Mulgrew and Commons and that used to wear. I think it had the sort of the green, white, and I think it was the orange colours, wasn't it? The sort of island flag. Mm-hmm. On the sleeve and the collar, I think it was as well. That
was a beautiful strip, absolutely stunning. When I was doing the jersey book, Scott, we're looking at colours and that kind of thing. You know, what colours mean, what they represent, and you look at the hoops, and it's the green for Ireland. Really, I mean, there's no other reason why Celtic wore green, and you've got things like purple. No many clubs wear purple, but that's all. It's very kind of decadent. It's more about riches and royalism, and then you look at black, and black is like invaders. You're actually invading somebody else's space, and I think that is appropriate for an away jersey. I do like the black away kits. They really work well for me. Looking forward to the Adidas coming in and the designs they might give us, because I wasn't a massive fan of some of the New Balance jerseys. I
thought the New Balance jerseys were terrible, to be honest, mate. I mean, there was a couple of times when I think after a couple of washes, all the sort of lettering and stuff was coming off them, and it felt a bit flimsy. But I'm very excited about the Adidas range that's coming in. I've seen a few sort of mock designs on the internet, and it doesn't matter which design you see, just every single one of them looks phenomenal. I just think Adidas do the kits properly, and I'm actually a wee bit gutted when they come out, because I think my bank balance is going to take a bit of a hit, because I'll end up buying every single one of them. They just look phenomenal, mate, and I can't wait for them to come out.
Always impressed with the guys that do the concept kits, Scotty. They're unbelievable. The creativity that you find in places like Twitter is very, very impressive. You've got a guy, Hoydie, doing the badges. You've got Made by Frankie doing the graphics. All these people are just tremendous, you know, and they're all Celtic-minded. They're of a Celtic state of mind. I really am looking forward. Hopefully we go back to kind of a retro feel in relation to certainly the stripes. I know they didn't do them right down the sleeves these days, but I'm looking forward to the Adidas kits. Now, back in the day, Scotty, I was a massive fan of Celtic fanzines, and in particular Not The View. Now, Not The View ran a feature on the back page for ages, and it was the highlight in many, many years of reading Not The View. It was called They Embarrassed the Hoops. Now, we've had some legendary players over the years. We've also had some guys that have just not kind of lived up to their own reputation or the expectations of the fans. Who do you reckon is the one player that embarrassed the hoops?
Oh, that's a pretty controversial topic, this one. We're only good enough ourselves to play for the hoops, so we don't really want to be slating on them too much, but there's definitely guys I would say that let us down. There's a list of guys. I remember doing an article on it myself, and I got a bit of heat off it, but there's definitely guys that could have probably done better and let the hoops down. There's guys, I think probably one of the worst defenders we've ever had is Dewey, if you remember him. The infamous Clyde game, when Clyde looked like Barcelona playing against this guy, you know, he was... How he got a game for Celtic, I'll never know.
Never played again, Scotty.
No wonder. You know, the guy couldn't get a game for Saltcoats Vix. I don't think. He was absolutely terrible. But there's a list of guys, mate. There was the Martin Hayes, the Cascarinos, the Mo Banguras, the Adam Virgo, Dirk Richter, Wayne Biggins.
Aye.
And I think probably the most infamous one, even though we never really got to see him play, but for the money it cost us, would have been Raphael Scheidt. Remember him?
I do, unfortunately, I do. I always have a laugh
terrible.
about it. It really is the transfer fee that brings that. You know, if the guy had come over as a promising youngster from South America and he didn't make it, then he gets packed off with your best wishes. But when he comes over for over £5 million on high wages and hardly kicks a ball, then I think it's one of the things. He was one of the players that has to come into this category, Scotty. And I know he was a better footballer than me, but I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, he is definitely in that feature. They embarrass the hoops.
Aye, without a shadow of doubt. But out of all the names that I've mentioned, I think that Dewey's without a doubt the worst player I've seen play for Celtic. But the names we did mention, like Cascarino, came with a massive reputation, and back then he was terrible for Celtic. Bo Richter as well came for Ajax, had this massive reputation, and we know he would pull a hamstring in the canteen sort of thing, but he just there's so many, mate, and like we'd cut our left arm off to play for Celtic, and it's just disappointing when you see these guys come in and they're not interested.
No, you're right, and I think when somebody like Borichter goes away and then starts blaming the club's medical staff for his own inability to actually play, you just think, well, I've got absolutely no time for you. Players like that, you have no sympathy for them, Scott, when they come away and badmouth the club. And another guy, Tony Cascarino, if anybody out there wants to read an autobiography that probably you weren't expecting much from, but is a really, really good read, is Cascarino's. It's called Full Time: The Secret Life of Tony Cascarino. It really is, from one of the worst strikers I've seen, one of the best football books, probably my top 5 football autobiographies. Give it a read if you get a chance, mate. It's a very, very good book.
Just got to say, I remember like standing in the jungle watching this guy, and like we had guys like Jerry Creaney back then as well, and but Jerry Creaney would score the odd goal every now and again. He always gave 100% when he played for Celtic, and I remember like in the second half when the substitutions were getting made, they'd take Creaney off and leave Cascarino on. And the growls going all the way around Celtic Park that this guy was being kept on. He just was not interested whatsoever. And I think, I've not researched this, but I think off the top of my head, he left us to go back to Chelsea.
He did.
If I'm right. And he scored in his debut. I remember watching it. I remember whatever it was back then. It wasn't Sports Scene, it was before Sports Scene. But I remember watching it, and it came up, Cascarino had scored, and I was like, are you bloody kidding me on?
The only good thing about Cascarino is we got Tom Boyd in return for him going down to London, so every cloud. I always say, Scotty, that Celtic and music goes hand in hand, and that isn't just on the terracing, but when I speak to Celtic fans, I always get this impression that they do have a great taste, many of them, in music, and there's loads of musicians out there who have Celtic in their heart and in their soul, to quote a phrase. If you were to pick your greatest album of all time, Scotty, what would it be, and what does it remind you of in relation to Celtic?
Right, the one I went for, these set of brothers are notorious Celtic fans. I think they're more Man City fans more than anything, but they've definitely got a massive affinity for Celtic. I believe their mother's Irish, Peggy, I believe her name is.
Peggy, yeah.
And these boys are huge Celtic fans. So the album I went for is Definitely Maybe by Oasis.
Definitely Maybe, Scotty. I remember it absolutely exploding onto the music scene when I was at high school. It probably would have been the same for you, although we were in different high schools at that time. The impact that band had from a working class area in Manchester was just, I don't think we'll see it to that extent ever again. When you were listening to that album, what kind of Celtic memories you got from that era, from the mid-90s?
Well, as you know, it was a pretty bad period for Celtic back then, so I think it was Oasis that kind of got us through the 90s. It certainly wasn't Celtic back then. But it was a really tough time for guys of our age back then, because we were in our, like you said, our teens, going into our late teens, and having to watch Celtic go through what we went through back then, and getting a ribbon off all your pals that were Rangers fans, or your neighbours, or your work colleagues. It was a really, really tough time. So bands like Oasis, like you said, that were raw and gritty, and they were your escape from football, if you like. And just growing up in those times when you were kind of lost and you didn't really know what you were going to do with your life. They were the band that were the forefront of British music at that time, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it had a huge impact on culture. When a band comes out, Scott, and people start behaving or mimicking their behaviour, their clothes, that kind of thing, you know they've made a cultural impact, not just had an impact on the music world. You think back to the Manchester scene, and people up north were wearing flares and bucket hats, and you knew that was because of the Stone Roses and the Happy Mondays. And then Oasis comes along and everybody starts getting the haircuts. I never did. I was more of a Shaun Ryder 1990 kind of haircut at that point. But, you know, they started getting the feathered bits around the ears and all that kind of stuff, and they started swaggering about. I even had somebody in Dunfermline calling his brother our kid, and I thought, nah, mate, you know, you can't do that, you know, for Manchester. But they had that kind of impact, you know what I mean, Scott? So I don't think we'll see their likes again, to be fair. And I did see yesterday that the Manic Street Preachers were doing a couple of big gigs for the NHS in December. They've just announced. I would love to see even a one-off Oasis gig. Get the guys back on the stage. What do you think about that?
Oh, massive, mate. I've been lucky enough to see them front row Finsbury Park in the early 2000s myself. Liam Gallagher's tambourine actually hit me in the head. He threw his tambourine into the crowd and it scudded me in the head and fell behind me, and there was a big fight for his tambourine. You know, for me, they're definitely the greatest band I've ever seen live. The brothers need to put this behind them, and I don't know if it's for the media or if it is general hatred, but life's too short, man. You just got to put all the shit behind you, and, you know, I know Noel's kind of went against what he used to stand for, sort of thing, and Liam sort of stayed the same, but they've got to put all their differences beside them. Surely they can share a stage together. Even if they don't like each other, just get on the stage for the fans and give everybody what they want. Life's too short, man.
I think the last few weeks have proven that life definitely is too short, Scotty, and you've got to go out and achieve what your dreams are in many ways. And I think you started doing that some time ago with your writing. That's resulted in you releasing a trilogy of books. God knows how you managed to do them so quickly, because it takes me years. But talk to us about getting into the writing, the types of people you've interviewed, and obviously your 3 books that have come out to a great reception.
Yeah, to be honest with you, mate, the writing all started by complete chance or by mistake, to be honest with you. I was sitting one night, I just moved over to Spain at the time, and I got a message off an American Celtic website asking me if I'd like to do a blog for them. Mm-hmm. And always kind of like my opinion to get across about Celtic, and always used to like when you could have an opinion on Twitter. I used to like to put my opinion on Twitter about Celtic and stuff, and I'd get some feedback. So this company, this website, contacted me and asked me to do a blog for them. So I started writing for them, and within a month, all the other writers had left the website for some strange reason, and I got handed the reins of the website. So I started taking over it, and I started doing a Q&A. I thought I'll do something that nobody else is doing, and I sort of started doing a Q&A with the former players. So I started contacting former players and Celtic fans. So the first sort of ex-player Celtic fan that I got in contact with was Trevor Sinclair. And Trevor Sinclair was very fond of Celtic, so I contacted him through Twitter, asked him if he would mind doing a Q&A with me. He said, yeah, sure, no problem. Couldn't believe it. Got a message back from him straight away. I sent him, I think it was 6 or 7 questions about Celtic. He sent me them back the same night, and that's how it all sort of started. And that's where the inspiration for my 10 in a row feature came from. My first one was Trevor Sinclair. I ended up interviewing guys like Chris Sutton, Victor Wanyama. I ended up interviewing Lisbon Lion, Jim Craig, other guys as well. Loads of different ex-Celtic football players. And it just sort of snowballed from there, and the 10 in a row feature became really, really popular. You
also interviewed Stan Collymore. Now, Stan Collymore, for me, is a guy who, for anybody that enjoys interviews, he's a brilliant guest. He's a brilliant guest to interview as well. And I think a lot of these interviews you did, what I certainly noticed about them, Scotty, was you would interview one day and the tabloids nicked all the headlines the following day. Victor Wanyama, Stan Collymore. It happened time and time again, didn't it?
Aye, it did happen quite a few times, and I wasn't long in pulling him up about it, that's for sure. But aye, like you said, Stan Collymore, there's another another one. Again, I don't know if your listeners will know this, but he was very, very close to signing for Celtic. Martin O'Neill met him in I think it was a hotel down in London, and Stan Collymore and Martin O'Neill had talks. He was very, very close to signing for Celtic, and Stan Collymore's own words were Martin O'Neill. He told him, "You couldn't handle it up in Glasgow, so I'm not going to sign you." He said, "You've not got the head for Glasgow."
That's
and he ended up signing John Hartson instead of Stan Collymore.
Very interesting.
Can you imagine?
I know.
Stan Collymore with Sutton and Larson as well.
Oh,
he's
that would have
a
been
phenomenal
amazing.
player.
That's an interesting one, Scotty, for the players that you would have liked to have seen in the hoops, because I think for that team, for Martin O'Neill, Stan Collymore would have been a great striker.
Right, he would have been phenomenal. Again, he gets slated for his off the field stuff, that happened 20, 30 years ago, whenever it was, but he was a phenomenal football player for sure.
Now, you're writing around Celtic because that's your passion. Developed into writing fiction, and you released very quickly 3 books in succession, Scotty, and you must have been on a lockdown to get them finished. I don't know how on earth you managed to do them in such quick succession. Talk to us about the 3 stories and where we can find them if we want to pick up your trilogy of novels.
Right, mate. The 3 books, the first one's called The Bunnet. That was my first ever book that I wrote. Again, I just moved to Spain at the time, and after work I didn't really have much to do with myself. It was before the pool party sort of stuff happened. I didn't have a pool at the time. All I had was a bedroom, and a laptop. So I started this story, and it just grew arms and legs. And to be honest with you, I just done it for myself. I didn't expect to make it into a book. I'd done this little story. It grew arms and legs. It went pretty quickly, to be honest. I think I wrote it in under a month, this whole story, and it just all came together. I picked the brains of people that I knew, yourself. I think I contacted yourself, and a guy called Des Dillon. Des Dillon's a friend of mine, and he actually wrote the theatre play Singing I'm Lord Billy, He's a Kin. And I was a wee bit worried about getting my stuff published, and I wasn't sure how to do it. And he said to me, "Why don't you just do it yourself and self-publish it on Amazon?" And I was like, "What are you talking about, just self-publish it myself on Amazon?" I didn't have a clue what he was going on about, but believe it or not, within getting it proofread and all the rest of it, you can put a book on Amazon within half an hour. Right. I couldn't believe it, how easy it is to actually self-publish your own books. So I done it, and again, it was one of those, I didn't expect anyone to read it, and it just absolutely exploded. It's basically about a wee guy from Scotland called JJ, and he lives with his mum. He can't get a job, he can't get a bird. He's just a regular guy for the west coast of Scotland, spends most of his time in the bookies and in the pub. He's just one of these guys that's getting any luck in life, and he comes across this old Irish guy one day in the pub who suggests that he should maybe get himself a wee bunnet, because if he looks about the pub in Scotland, every old guy he sees sitting there with a bunnet on, and they managed to have a pint and a whiskey beside them. Now, if you can imagine how much a pint and a whiskey costs these days, they're getting their money from somewhere. So he suggests that JJ get one of these bunnets, and he goes to the local charity shop and he finds a bunnet that fits his head and he puts it on. And it turns out that this bunnet is a lucky bunnet, and his life starts to change. He starts winning at the horses, winning with women, and just the trials and tribulations of this wee guy's life, just take a turn for the better. And it's a wee heartwarming story, a wee comedy, and it makes you feel good about yourself once you've read it. I've actually got it on Amazon at the minute. During the lockdown, I was trying to give it away for free for everybody, just to try and raise people's spirits a little bit. But on the Amazon Kindle at the minute, it's $1.99. So that's as low as I could go on Amazon for it on Amazon Kindle. So it's available just now on Amazon for people to get it for their Kindles. It's a cracking wee story. And like you said, it's taken rave reviews, and my 3 books have actually been sent down to the Warner Brothers studios down in the offices down in London for them to have a look at. So that's how popular the 3 have actually started to get. That's
outstanding, Scotty. Really, really brilliant achievement for anybody that writes a book. But then you followed it up with a second and a third, and if you do get them adapted and into any kind of format, it's going to take it to another level. It's just going to take it to another level, Scotty. It's an interesting time for you. Do you have any plans to follow up your third book with another one? Have you got any other plans for your writing, or are you too busy at the pool?
Too busy at the pool, aye. The second one, Hugo, is about a Scottish guy that goes on a drug run to the Costa del Sol in the 1990s. Say he comes down here on a drug run and inadvertently gets stuck here and takes over the drug trade in the Costa del Sol. So Hugo's actually a character from the first book they've done it, and it's good how the two books sort of mingle into each other.
Aye.
The third one, The Factory Girls, is about a group of lassies that work in a shift in a textile factory in Scotland, and the three books are actually characters from each book. So the three of them merge perfectly, and it's a cracking trilogy, very, very funny. And like you said, hopefully one day I can maybe see them on BBC Scotland or film or Netflix or something, that's a dream.
Well done to you, and I wish you all the best with that. One final question. We've spoken about the current situation and how, you in Spain are a few weeks ahead of us, and you've given us an idea of what to be prepared for in the coming weeks. And hopefully in a few months, Scotty, we can get back to some form of normality. Scottish football obviously is the least of many people's worries, but being avid Celtic supporters and fans of the game, you do wonder where it leaves Scottish football. How do you think this is going to end in relation to this season? And then when we look ahead to next season, how's it going to affect next season? And in fact, who are we going to be playing next season? Because I can't see everybody surviving this.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the financial implications for Scottish football is going to be felt across the board. I think Celtic will be crowned champions. I don't think we'll play out the rest of the games. I just can't see how that's going to happen. I think it was Michael Stewart said the other day there that they might keep Hearts in the league and play with 13 teams next season. Now, that's an interesting one. Is it fair that Hearts go down? A lot of people are saying yes, a lot of people are saying no. Just maybe bringing Dundee United up and playing with 13 teams next season and keeping Hearts in the league. Are they too big a club to go down? Well, they sort of shouldn't have been in that position in the first place, but I can't see the games getting played, mate, if I'm being 100% honest. I think Hearts will go down and Celtic will be crowned champions. I've also seen about this club from the other side of the city talking about the money situation. Well, what would maybe be a better idea is if they just split all the money completely down the board instead of giving maybe Celtic the top money prize and then them across the city the second. Sort of, why don't they just put all the money together and give it to all the clubs in Scotland as one payment? Maybe that would help the clubs out financially that are really struggling, and know the ones that are claiming not to be struggling and are probably close to liquidation again.
Yes.
That would help out the sort of lesser teams, mate, and give them that financial boost in these testing times.
There are clubs further down the leagues who, for a fraction of the prize money you're talking, in relation to finishing first, second or third in the Scottish Premiership, that would be the difference between survival and liquidation. So I think that's a good suggestion. There's loads to consider, Scotty. And one last reminder, give us a video of you kicking something as you're doing a kind of overhead kick into your swimming pool, and that will go onto the Jimmy Johnston kicking a ball all around the world, and it'll be a welcome addition, Scott, because I know that you had some skills back in the day. So come on, show us them, and we'll put it up on the site as well.
I'll get an overhead kick on there for you, mate, no problem.
Nice one, Scotty. Now take care out there, and we will catch up again very soon on A Celtic State of Mind.
Definitely, mate. Thanks for having me on.